Welcome, 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 everybody. Welcome to Caribbean Masterclasses, Season 4. Can you believe it? We are ready to go. I am so excited to have all of you with me. Of course, you have the chat, so feel free to put your comments in there. And let me know if you're already part of the CMC family. And if you're not, welcome, welcome to Caribbean Masterclasses. So, just for a little reference for those of you who are new to Caribbean master classes, this was a dream to have Caribbean creatives, thought leaders, experts in various industries share their experiences, their journeys, teach, educate, entertain us. Because I often feel that sometimes our Caribbean stories are not always out there for us to learn from and benefit from. I started this about 4 years ago. And can I tell you, after the first season, I was like, this has been great. I don't know if I'm going to do this again. But I took a little vacation. And then I was like, yes, I'm going to go into another season. And here we are at season 4. And I want to say a special thank you to all the CMC Caribbean Masterclass family. For those of you who keep asking me, when's the next masterclass? So that I got the energy to keep going. And if you're new, you're going to see the little ticker across your screen. Please subscribe, be one of the CMC family, a part of the CMC family. So subscribe by emailing me, and I can send you the link so you can be a part of our subscription base. And this year, I'm planning to do some extra fun things for all of our subscribers. So welcome again to CMC and welcome to season 4. And today we have a very, very special guest. When we talk about experts in their industry or in their field, this lady that I'm going to introduce shortly is absolutely a gem. I want to say for all of you who are watching, as women, we are often taught about the various transitions that we go through. And men who are watching, sometimes you hear as well, the things that ladies will experience. And I have to say, we were always taught that we would have a very special guest. Some of us would call her Aunt Flo. You all might be familiar with that monthly guest. And so we were kind of prepared for that. But nobody told me quite about the second guest. And the second guest is Perry. And I don't know if Perry is an uncle or is a cousin, if Perry is another auntie. I don't know who Perry is, but boy, was I woefully unprepared for Perry last year. And honestly, what was interesting for me is that there were different symptoms that I was experiencing, and I just couldn't connect the dots until my sister shared with me very quickly one day a video from a lady called Dr. Mindy Peltz. And I watched it, and it was over an hour long, but I watched every minute of it. And then after, I was in tears because I finally felt relief, like maybe something, connected for me. And now I understood what was happening. But then I was asking myself, where's the Caribbean context? Who represents us in this space? Who understands us here in the Caribbean? And can I tell you, when your heart and your soul is aligned, then God opens channels. Because all of a sudden, in my LinkedIn feed popped a lady by the name of Patrice Lockhart. And then she sends me this message saying, hey, I see you do events. Let me introduce myself. And I'm like, yes. How awesome is this? So I am very, very, very happy to introduce all of you to Miss Patrice Lockhart. And she is a globally certified menopause coach. And she is also one of the first for us right here in the Caribbean. And Patrice has had over 20 years in health and wellness. And what is interesting is that her journey to become a certified menopause coach actually started when she experienced several years of a very traumatic transition in terms of what was happening with her, the symptoms, and trying to understand and going to doctors and not quite getting what she needed in terms of support. And so that led her to go through this certification. And now, ladies and gentlemen, if you are here on behalf of the ladies in your life, welcome again. And please give a warm Caribbean Masterclass welcome to Patrice Lockhart. Welcome, Patrice.
Hello. Thank you for being here. I am so excited.
And I am so happy to have you. I just feel like this is a timely opportunity for us to have a conversation about menopause and all the stages of menopause,
Yes.
and for
Mm-hmm.
people to have a forum and a safe forum to ask questions. And speaking about
Yes.
safe forums, I just want to say I know some of you may be a little bit shy about putting your questions in this chat. If they're general comments and questions that you feel comfortable doing, by all means, put it in the chat. But if there's something a little more private, please do email me or WhatsApp it to me. Some of you would have my WhatsApp information, and I will be happy to take those questions and pass them to Patrice, because we want to make sure that this session is for you. So ask as much as you want to and learn as much as you need to out of this session. So, Patrice, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It is my pleasure. And I'm on a mission. Menopause, menopause, menopause.
I love it, because I think this is a huge well, I say huge because I'm might be exaggerating, but I guess I've seen in the last year or 2 years celebrities and different people coming out and talking about their experiences, and putting that
Finally.
out in social media, and really having this whole kind of awareness around menopause
Yes.
and what we experience, and it's important for us to even have this conversation in the Caribbean. And so tell us where this started for you, because you yourself you went through a journey. So
Yes.
what started your journey, and led you to make this decision that this is something that you'd like to do?
My journey. My marriage was falling apart. I was dealing with financial pressure and stress. I began to put on unexplained weight. I was not sleeping and I was dealing with anxiety. It was a very alone time for me, and it was also very frightening. And I went for an entire year. I was having issues sleeping. Then I went into 6 weeks of sleeping for an hour to under an hour. And at that point, my brain was acting crazy. Then I experienced day, night, another day, another night, another day, and another night of not a wink of sleep. I was wired, and I didn't know my hand from my feet. And during this time, I was also experiencing a lot of rejection. And I spoke to a family member, and a family member actually had to come and take me in her home for 2 weeks to care for me. This family member worked at a hospital. She worked in the lab. And she was trying to get me to come to the hospital. I kept on refusing. I kept on saying, all I need to do is sleep. And if I get the stress out of my life, I'm going to be fine. I self-diagnosed. That's all I needed as far as I was concerned. And it got to a point after I stopped sleeping for that third day and night. I said to her after I prayed that night, okay, I'll go. She took me to the hospital, went to see a physician. The medical physician examined me and determined that nothing was wrong with me physically. I kept on saying to him, I just need to sleep. I just kept on saying, I was begging everybody, give me something strong, just make me sleep. After he determined nothing was wrong with me, he spoke to my sister in law, and she came to me and she said, Patrice, there's a doctor that can help you, the psychiatrist. The only way they can help you, um, no, she said they can help you. Um, do you want to see the psychiatrist?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I looked at her and I said, can she help me to sleep? She said, yes. I said, okay. They admitted me. It was a humiliating experience. Then they took me before the psychiatrists, etc., this group of them. They spoke with me, etc. And then they determined nothing was wrong with me psychologically or mentally,
Mhm.
and released me.
Mhm.
I was released. The medical doctor, the psychiatrist all said nothing was wrong with me, yet I was putting on weight, dealing with anxiety, and couldn't sleep. I went through a long process where it was thought I had a heart attack. Then a friend of one, in the middle of one night, calling a friend around 2, thinking I'm dying of a heart attack.
Mhm.
This
Mhm.
is 8 years into it. She says to me, Patrice, I don't know why you don't accept the fact that you are menopausal.
Oh
When she
wow.
said that, it blew me. It stopped because you gotta understand. I'm thinking This is the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning. I think I'm dying. And she says you're perimenopausal. And what happened was, because I was trying to figure out, because no doctor was able to help me, I was going to these doctors. No one was helping me. I felt so all alone. I was doing a lot of research, and everything was saying that I was perimenopausal. But in my mind,
Mm.
menopause only happened to all women. And it was
Mm.
impossible for me to be menopause. It was in the middle of the night. I accepted the fact that I was perimenopausal. And that began a journey
Wow.
for me, because the doctors at one point thought I had a heart attack. Um, there were so many things. And I am here as a menopause health practitioner
Mhm.
because of my journey. I help
Right.
women during the menopausal journey because so many have the same story I had. Went to doctors, did a lot of EKGs. No one could help you. I had to become my own rescue with the help of God. And I say
Yeah.
to women, I know the journey. I know about not being able to sleep. I know about the heart palpitations, think you're going to die. I know about the vaginal issues. I know about the memory stuff. And my mission, my goal is to be a bridge over the troubled menopausal waters for women, and to
Yes.
leave each
I
woman
love
better
it.
than I met her.
I
That's
love
my
it. And I love that. I love that that's the mission. And I love the work that you're doing. And the fact that you were like, trying to extend this throughout the Caribbean. And I feel like
yes,
one of the things that you said is like the connecting of the dots, because the symptoms that you had, I could empathize with that too, because for me some of the symptoms I had made me go, well, what's happening, the weight gain. And I'm like, before, I could work it off, and I could, eat my salads and I'm good.
yes,
And now these pounds would not leave. They were like
yes.
clinging like glue. And I was everything I
Hormonal
was
weight is
doing,
different.
it really is. And
Yes, it
you
is.
know the fact that you talk about, the lack of sleep, heart palpitations, all of these things. And it blew me away when I went down the rabbit hole of researching about menopause and perimenopause, is the amount of symptoms that you can have as a woman. Some people are
Yes.
good, they don't have anything. But I think, we've
Not
always just talked
really.
about,
No.
right? No, you think, no, there are women who have stuff.
As long as you live to be in your 40s,
Mm,
and your estrogen will begin to decline. The problem is we
mm-hmm.
do not know. A lot of things that are said to be age related are
Ah.
not. No, it is directly because a woman's estradiol has begun to decline, or for some
Mm-hmm.
women, when they go into menopause, it's declined. And we'll go into the stages. But
Mm,
there is not one woman who does not have
mm,
menopausal symptoms. Now, you may not
mm,
know they are menopause because of the fact that this one hormone that's called estradiol, she makes us a woman. And when we went into puberty, and in fact, I'm going to use you. When you went into puberty, Annick, here's what
mm-hmm.
happens. You came into this world with a basket full of eggs. And this hormone called estradiol said to Anik, Anik, now there's no way I'm going to let you go back home to God with all of these eggs in your basket. I have to help you use these eggs. And
Mm-hmm.
so you began. So what? When estradiol kicked in your life, you had breasts. You start having breasts, you have hair under your arm, pubic hair, then you start having a period and started using these eggs. This hormone is a major player in a
Mm,
woman's body. She
mhm,
has a lot to do with the way where you put on weight. She has a lot to do with our brain function. She has a lot with our digestive issues. She has a
mm,
lot to do with your joints. That's why women deal with these joint pains and muscle aches.
yeah.
She has a lot to do with your function.
Mm,
And when she begins to decline during perimenopause, because what you weren't listening to was when estradiol said to you, now, Annick, I am not going to be with you forever.
hmm.
Going to leave you at a certain point. When I look in
Yes.
the egg basket and you only have about 8 to 10 years worth of eggs left, I'm going to start leaving. And I tell you, estradiol
Okay.
is a female, very dramatic.
You are so right about that because when I started to experience this, I began to have conversations with other women. And what shocked me is that so many other women were like, oh, yeah, can you believe what was happening to me? And I almost feel like we've been isolated in our conversations. I
Yes.
feel, and that's why I wanted to do this masterclass. I feel so strongly about this because some women actually felt very alone,
Yeah.
again, with what was happening, because maybe they felt like there were people in their family who didn't quite relate to it, or
Yeah.
other people around them who didn't relate to it. And what you said is interesting, that all of us as women have symptoms of it. Some of us are just more cognizant of it, or conscious of it, because of the way it's impacting us. And then the
Mhm.
other thing is, we just, we joke a lot about hot flashes and the fact
Yeah.
that you had hot flashes. And I think hot flashes became the poster child of those who are suffering from
For
menopause, but
menopause.
we didn't
Correct.
even talk about half of the symptoms that comes with
Yeah,
with this
women don't
transition.
realize that the headaches they're having, the dizziness, the nausea, directly because of the decline of your estrogen hormone. A lot of women deal with the
Yeah.
ringing in their ear. I did a session where about 100 women were
Mm,
in the session, and I talked about tinnitus. And not many people knew what tinnitus was. When I said, okay, how many of you dealing with the ringing in your ears? About half of the room lifted up their
mm,
hand, and everybody, they started laughing. It was like, you too. And
wow.
these things that are happening with women are happening because our estradiol has declined. And in fact, when a woman, every woman,
Mm,
when she hits her 40s and going into her 50s, she is at risk. She has is a greater risk for heart disease just
mm,
because she is woman and that estradiol begins to decline. Not because
wow.
of her eating habits. I mean, whatever she's doing before is already causing issues. But the fact
Right.
that estradiol has helped with our arteries, keeping our arteries clear, keeping the good
Hmm.
cholesterol functioning, doing what it's supposed to do, and keeping the bad cholesterol at bay. Um,
Mm,
Estradiol helps with that. And so then when a woman goes into a
mm,
40 and estradiol begins to leave, and then she leaves,
yes.
can you imagine what happens? There's a
Yes.
famous thing that says when the cat is away, the mouse is gonna.
Mhm.
So bad cholesterol begins to have a happy
Right.
time in our bodies. And that's one of the reasons why we put on the weight, and then the stress triggers more with the
Mm,
cortisol, etc. So yeah, many of
yes.
the symptoms are menopausal.
And you said something there, which is, again, we don't understand the risk that comes with this if we don't connect the dots and
Yes.
look at ways to address it, which we're going to talk a little bit about. And
Mhm.
you said something very, very important there, and I love the comment from Shanda, who says 100% no one talks about this, so how would we know? And that's why I'm hoping that the sessions like this will help us to further the conversation. And one of
Mhm.
the things that you've done is that you actually have a Facebook support group. So I'll try and put that information in here for people as well. I think you have it on the slides that we're going to show in a
Yes.
minute. But I want us to make sure that we talk about stress, because the and what happens with cortisol and the cortisol spikes. That was something that just kind of hit me really hard. The fact that women, we have to be very, very careful about how that builds up in our body. And again, it helps me appreciate menstruation and the period. I had very bad periods, and so I
Mhm.
never really had a love for it. So I figured that when it was gone, I would be singing hallelujah. Except now I'm
Yeah.
learning that's how the body got rid of toxins, and now I'm like, it did serve a purpose. I was extremely important. I'm so sorry. I am
You know,
sorry to Auntie Flo. I'm sorry.
oh, listen here. You know, I always said as women, we have been done a disservice, and especially us in the Caribbean, we have not been taught about menopause. We weren't taught in the schools. Our mothers didn't pass it on. And let me tell you something. I remember when I was married, I remember thinking, I can't wait for my period to end. No more pads, no more bleeding. I could wear my white pants. I didn't have anything to worry about. My husband and I could swing from the chandelier, didn't have to worry about becoming pregnant. No one told me the whole story. I
Mm,
didn't know the menopause story. And
mm,
it's unfortunate. And the person was, how can we know? And again, just like you said, sessions like this, and even afterwards, I have a session I've put together just for women who
mhm.
want to really learn about menopause and understand their body, because our problem is we don't know. I had a
Right.
lady call me today, and she was so frustrated. And I get this all the time. Menopause, the thing about menopause is that menopause affects women on three
Mhm,
levels:
mhm,
physically,
mhm,
emotionally,
mhm.
and psychologically. Some women have just one, some women have a collection of three, some have two. And so many women deal with the anxiety and the depression, and they think something is wrong with them, that they're losing it. I get calls from everywhere. Um, Women crying. One lady, a designer, called me today, and she was so frustrated. Doctors are looking at her like she's crazy. They don't understand. And she's telling them what's going on. Many doctors want to put women on antidepressant. And it's not, it's because there is a decline in the hormone. And what I do for women is that I put together protocols for women.
Mm,
I have had women who, when I first started, I had
mhm.
all the hard cases, because there were women, a number of women, couple of women, 17 years of dealing with symptoms, 20 years of dealing with symptoms. Women have said to me, I have been to all the doctors in the Bahamas, I've been to doctors in the USA, and no one was able to help me. The protocol you put me on is the first time in all of these years my symptoms have ceased.
Yeah.
And I help women to understand what's going on and how to cope and manage their menopause, through the menopause transition.
Awesome.
It is
So I
awesome.
you gave well you brought a presentation. I'm
Yes.
going to put that up on the stage on and there we go. So again, personal mission and your website's there. So we'll share that afterwards and I'll email this to everybody. And by the way, you are able to watch this again after this event has happened. So please, rewatch this if you need to get this information. So let's talk a little bit about what is menopause.
Okay.
So I'm going to let you talk about these phases, and then we
Okay.
actually have a few questions in the chat that we should address. So I am going to just let you take center stage now,
Okay.
and I want you to go ahead and talk about it.
Okay. One of the things I want women to understand about menopause is that menopause is a natural transition in a woman's life. It is not a disease. It is not a medical condition. The same way you came into this world as a little girl, a baby, then you moved into being a toddler, then a little girl, then into a young girl, etc. And then you moved into being a reproductive adult. By design, You are going to move into that stage of your life where you are not going to reproduce, where you will cease from being able to reproduce. And the problem with us is that because we've not been told or taught in schools, our mothers didn't pass it on, we think something's wrong with us. It is a natural transition in a woman's life. And there are three stages of menopause. The first stage of menopause is called perimenopause. Perimenopause is that 8 to 10 year before you as a woman stop bleeding. That's right. Your body begins that decline, that hormonal decline, 8 to 10 years before you stop bleeding. Many women don't even know when their body goes into that switch. But it when that happens, you are on the last set of eggs that you came to this earth with. This normally happens in our early 40s. Now, it is possible for women to go into menopause and perimenopause in the 30s, but that's an anomaly. Usually something is wrong when we're talking about the ovaries. Some women are dealing with cancer, so they're dealing with taking radiation or chemo. Then you have some women who there's some other things going on with their bodies, but the normal transition begins in your 40s, whether you feel it or not. And what happens is for many of us women, it is happening, but we just don't know. Now, the second phase of menopause is called menopause itself. Now, a woman does not go into menopause until she's had 12 full months of not bleeding. That day is called menopause. And that is when your body officially has stopped producing this powerful form of estrogen called estradiol. Now, women have different symptoms, and we'll go through some of the symptoms. And one of the things that's important to know, the symptoms that you may have at the beginning of perimenopause, and then going into the middle of perimenopause, maybe another set of symptoms, then the ending of perimenopause, another set. Then when you go into menopause itself, that's another set. Postmenopause, your body is really moving on no or low, rather low hormones. So it takes a while for our bodies to get there. Women usually go into menopause between 51 and 58. Now, white women, Caucasian women, usually it's around 51 or so, 51 and 50, 51 and 58. Blacks, however, have been researchers showed that especially blacks in America and Latinos, they go into menopause around 49. Now, because we in the Caribbean don't have any research, began doing some research. And here in the Bahamas, I've found that we have a group that finishes around 49, but the larger group finishes between 51 and 54 years old. So that has been quite interesting. And if you can type in the chat, if you finished menopause, what age? Just put your numbers, what age you stopped bleeding at. Then and I don't know, I'm not able to
Mhm.
see them, but perhaps
All right.
if we see them, that
Yes,
would be good just to
I'm
see the
monitoring.
age. It would be good.
Yeah. And
Okay,
again,
and
remember
then
that
the
they
five.
can. Sorry, I was just going to say, and remember, if you want to WhatsApp me the information or you want to email, feel free to do
My
that.
necklace is falling.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm just going to just remind everybody about that. But yeah, I that's actually quite interesting that you say that because one of the questions was, how long is menopause? So the fact that you were kind of given this timeline of how or when things could possibly hit is really, really good. It's very
Yeah.
helpful.
Actually, and in postmenopause, is when again we stop bleeding, the body gets used to is taking that time to get used to living with low hormone, and research indicates that around 65 is when it tapers off for most women, the menopausal symptoms. Now, some are before, some are after. I know, since I came into this field here in the Bahamas, I've had to deal with women in their late 60s and 70s still dealing with menopausal symptoms. And again, this has been happening because we have had, we haven't had the help that we've been needing. And it would break my heart to see older women, because after a while, you've been through a lot in life. The last thing you want to be dealing with in your 70s is still, menopausal symptoms. So
Right.
yeah, that's a synopsis of what menopause is. Again, three
Okay.
phases: perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, and the
Okay.
symptoms are often very different during these times.
Now, I know this slide is a little bit hard, maybe for some people to read, but we're going
Mhm.
to talk through this because we also had a question in the chat. What's the difference between estrogen and estradiol? And I
It's a
think you mentioned it, that is a form of.
Yeah, it's a powerful form of estrogen. The estradiol, in fact, estrogen, there are three types of estrogen.
Okay.
Estradiol is the most powerful form of estrogen that we
Mm,
use between puberty to menopause. That's the hormone that kicks in, like I said, that helps you during that phase of your life to use up all of those eggs. Then,
mm,
when you are through, we have a weaker form of estrogen, which is called estriol, that the adrenals begin to produce, that you will be able to live on. And it's also in fat cells as well. And that's why when we're
mm.
putting on all this weight around the middle, the body is trying
Yes.
so hard to help us, but we don't realize, what is going on. But
Mhm,
I want to also go quickly into this for you, about some of the data and facts about menopause. Uh,
mhm,
Again, I'm on a mission to educate our women about
mhm,
menopause. Research has revealed that 60%, Annick, of all divorces are
mm.
initiated by menopausal women between 40 and their early 60s.
Mm.
What women have not known and relationship. Menopause affects the homes, it affects our relationships, um,
Wow.
and we are impacted as Caribbean women, and we've not been properly equipped to
Mhm.
deal with it. Menopause also affects the workplace. It's been
Yes.
flying under the radar. I could tell you stories. It's crazy, but it's real. And
Mm.
again, like I said, we there's so much that we have not been taught, so we don't know.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I wanted to share here, because I already talked about how when we get in 40s, we're at greater risk of heart disease. The leading cause of death for females overall within the Caribbean is
Mm.
heart disease, according to the
Right.
Caribbean um, Epidemiology Center report, which is a division of PAHO and the World Health Organization. And I
Mm.
want to park here because even the high blood pressure, the
Okay.
cholesterol, the heart disease, again, menopause does not directly cause heart disease, and
Mhm.
high triglycerides and elevated cholesterol levels, and even our insulin levels hiking. It's because of the major role she played within our bodies that kept these things balanced. And that's
Yes.
why when we get into our 40s, we are at greater risk for heart disease just because of the natural decline of the estrogen. And here's
Yes.
another data I thought important for women to know. And I'm doing this because women are dealing with these issues and don't even understand. Research has shown that 61% of women suffer anxiety during
Mm.
perimenopause, and it can
Okay.
last
Wow.
from a few months to
Mhm.
12 years.
Yeah.
And 2013 UK report found that the highest, now get this, the highest level of anxiety or depression took place in
Mm.
menopausal women between 50 and 54 years of age. And it is the
Wow.
most underestimated symptom of menopause.
Wow.
Yet,
Wow.
yet women think they're
That's so
menopause.
powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful. And in
And
fact, I think people are connecting the dots here, Patrice, because again, in the chat, someone said divorce and the work environment comment is very interesting. So
yes,
many of us are in high pressure situations, maybe in high pressure jobs.
yes,
You know, some of us, we've got our families, maybe empty nesters, or we still have, children in the home. Like we haven't connected all of these things, as you said, and even the fact that this is the time when we're most vulnerable, when we're most likely to feel depressed and anxious. And
yes.
I don't think we even
We don't
we
give it
even
enough
truly
attention. You are so
know.
right. We don't listen. During menopause is one of the most, just like you said, during the time of menopause, women are going through so much. During this time, some women are dealing with marital issues. They're
Right.
hanging on a shoestring, trying to keep their marriage together or stay in. Some women are
Right.
very unhappy. Then we have during this time, a lot of women are dealing with the loss of a loved one. I've met a lot of my menopausal women,
Hmm.
their husbands have just died,
Hmm.
and the stress triggers their menopausal symptom even more, or they lost a mother, or they lost a parent, or even a child.
Wow.
um, then menopausal women, many times, they're also having to be caretakers during this time in their life. Their moms, their parents
Right.
are elderly, and they have that responsibility. And just like you said, even empty nesters, many menopausal women, they have kids. Their kids sometimes are going through whatever their issues are. And as a woman, our kids are hurting, our kids are in pain, we are in pain.
Yeah.
Many menopausal women during this time, they have mortgages, university fees to pay, so they must stay on these jobs that they are unhappy with. And what often teach menopausal women is that self-care is so important during this time.
Mm. Oh, there
we
you go.
we are great at caring for others, but
Hmm.
when it's time to care for ourselves, we put ourselves on the back burner. And if
Yeah.
ever there is a time for a woman to take care of herself, it is
Mhm.
during menopause. And
Yeah.
it's a determining factor for how the rest of your life will be. Believe it
That's
or
powerful. That's powerful.
yes,
And now I appreciate why, to your point, you have the Facebook group. Again, we'll share those details. And Patrice has put her information there. You can WhatsApp her, and get in contact with her, because you also offer coaching, as you
yes,
said, and help women to set up protocols to manage what is happening in your life. And that is extremely important. It's
yes,
important for us to have a support community,
yes.
of the sisterhood, of women. And you know what? I want to say men too, because at some point, men have to be a part of this conversation so they
Oh,
understand what's
yes.
going on with us. So whether that's your spouse or partner, whether that's your brother, your cousin, you're close with, your best friend, it's important for men also to be part of this conversation, because
Most definitely.
they
Hmm.
can help. And when you talk about the workplace, well, relationships, because obviously men are impacted by all of this.
Yes.
If they see the woman in their life changing, suddenly she's a different. And I've had women tell me that their husbands were like, what is this creature?
Yes.
Who
Yeah.
is this person?
Yes.
I mean, they're like, they just, it's almost like they're different people.
That's
um
exactly how men tell me they describe men. Let me tell you something. Men call me on the down low, and
Mhm.
they are confused as to what's going on. who is this woman? And I have, and let me, and my sessions, many of the consultation sessions, husbands come in with their wives because they
Right.
really want to understand what's going on. When I have a lot of my sessions, men come in with their wives because they need to understand, because I can tell you so many stories, even in the workplace. I had a session
Yes, the
the other day.
workplace.
This gentleman worked with 20 women directly under his leadership. And he said to me, I did it at a church, and they streamed it for their other church members.
Mhm.
It was the women there, but he watched it. And he said, when I came back, he told me the story. He said, listen, every day I came home from work, there's 20 women, and he said I come home and I say to my wife, those women crazy. Something's wrong with those women.
Uh-huh.
And he said every day he comes and he's convinced those women are crazy. He said when he listened to my session, he understood and he was able to identify so many things because he's been
Mhm.
working with these women for years. So he
Mhm.
was able to understand what was going on. He then went into the office and opened the conversation about menopause. Listen here, the women open up to him. It is a different place. The women, he had the women calling me. I've been helping them. And let me tell you, he said, listen, I still think they're crazy. But now I understand.
Yeah,
And they
I
were
mean,
talking about their situation to him.
and I think that that's important because we, especially for women in certain professions and women who, they might be in the C-suite and women who are in boardrooms and places where there are a lot of men and you may be the minority and you're sitting at these, and, you talked about the fact that you're sitting at this table and you're sweating profusely or your brain is foggy as a woman
Or you're
who has
sleeping.
worked so hard to get to the table for all of a sudden you're sleepy. These things are happening.
It is real. And one of the things, again, I'm so happy to be here. And I want to talk about menopause ambassadors, which are Caribbean women, because we have got to get this message out. We've
Mhm,
got to begin this conversation about menopause. I worked in the corporate world for many years, about 27 years. And I worked where there was all men, and these men were from all over the world. So being a female and being black in in any arena,
mhm,
there was more pressure than needed to be.
mhm,
And my boss then was a white foreigner, and we were having a meeting. I did not tell him what was going on with me. I wasn't sleeping. And there we were having a meeting, and I was at the back of the room, the
mm,
only female in that room. And I'm talking about, there are executives from all over, Americans, Europeans, Bahamians, from the Caribbean in this meeting. I'm the only female. I fall asleep and I'm
mm,
fighting sleep. He's
yeah,
at the front of the room and he says, Patrice, stop sleeping.
mm,
Every head turned in that room to look at
mm,
me. It was
yeah,
one of the most humiliating experiences that I've had. And I then afterwards, because him being a male, I didn't know how to come, I didn't even know what was going on with me.
mm,
I then had to go to him because I didn't want to lose my job.
yeah,
And I had to tell him what was going on with me. And the
mhm,
only thing that saved me was the fact that his wife
mhm,
going through a similar experience, and they diagnosed her with having anxiety.
right,
And that saved me.
yeah,
But so much is going on in the workplace. Women aren't sleeping, but they have to show up to on the job for 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. They and on 1 hour sleep or whatnot. And one of the things eventually with the menopause ambassadors within the Caribbean is we're going to begin to look at policies and regulations
yes,
in the
yes,
workplace for women, because there are women, I have clients who've had to get doctor's certificate because they keep running to the bathroom. They have to
Mm.
keep using the bathroom. Menopause affects our vaginas. Nobody told us that. Women are dealing with vaginal dryness, itching, burning. They're losing the sex drive. A lot of women are leaking
Mm.
urine, some leaking fecal leaking, some
Mm.
are running to the bathroom and can't make it in time, some have prolapse. And no one told us all of these things are a direct result of a woman going into menopause. And
Wow.
so it affects the job. When a menopause affects our brain, some of us can't focus and concentrate. You go in one room, you can't really stand there. You're trying to figure out, okay, what did I come in here for? That's menopause. The changing, the mood swings, the anxiety, the depression, the irritability. Some women become aggressive. I can
Mm.
tell you stories after stories. All of these are directly because you are in menopause.
So we have a few questions, and again, you're just listing out even more of the symptoms that we can have. I get, and I'm loving this. I'm loving this, but we got to get to some of these questions. So there's a question here saying, I see more comments on social media about adult ADHD being diagnosed, especially in women, and they're wondering if there's a connection there between adult ADHD in women and menopause.
One of the things that's happening right now is because there are women like me who have gone into the field of menopause professionally. Now there's more research being done.
Mhm.
Here's what happens with a woman. Menopause is not just a reproductive transition, but it's a transition for a woman's brain. There's a couple of parts
Mhm.
that our brain is literally impacted by menopause. There's a part of our
Mhm.
brain when you talk about focus and memory and concentration. That's the hippocampus. The
Mhm.
hippocampus that's responsible for all of those functions. What's happening is that it's no longer getting the support that it's been getting from a woman was in puberty to this point.
Mhm.
And so that it's like you were all your life from puberty to now, you were operating on a full tank of estradiol, like a full
Mhm.
tank of gas. And when you go into perimenopause, your tank of gas begins to go down, or your tank of estradiol begins to go down. And that part of the brain that has been supported by estradiol is screaming, where's my estradiol? Where's my fuel? Where's my fuel today? And so many, even in the corporate world, women find that they're not concentrating, they're not focused. Oprah talked about it. Oprah said, I read books all my life, and all of a sudden I can't even read a page, I can't even focus. It's not because you were being deliberate about it or you're being lackadaisical. It's because it's a physiological effect that's happening with
Mhm.
the brain. Then there's a part of the brain called the amygdala, the memory and the moods. I'm sorry, that deals with moods, irritability. A lot of women deal with that. A lot of women become aggressive, etc. It's because that part of the brain, again, is
Right.
not getting the support it's been getting, and so again, a lot of research is being done, but what's happening now is the connections are literally being connected, that it's our brain. It's the various parts of our brain as a woman not getting the support it's been getting. Now, the good
Mhm.
news is that when we get about 65 or so, research is showing that a woman's brain all of a sudden goes back to normal. It gets used to the low level of hormones, and research has shown with the men and the women, our brain get back to normal. But it
So,
is, again, a deficiency or decline, I should say, in the estradiol.
okay. And we have one more question, and then maybe we can go to your slide. I know you had
Yes,
some things in terms of the action that we could take,
yes.
um, because you're talking about obviously like what can women do, and one of the big things is HRT, or hormone replacement therapy.
Hmm.
So there's a question: is why do some healthcare practitioners indicate that HRT, or hormone replacement therapy, elevates the risk of heart disease when the reduction in estradiol causes increased risk of heart disease. So I know that HRT is something that is in constant debate. I have a friend who said HRT was saved her life because she said one of the things that she had was the hot flashes. They were so bad she felt like her brain was cooking. She said, I felt like I needed something. So there are people who are for it, there's some people against it. So talk
Against
about
it.
hormone replacement therapy.
Okay. First of all, I deal with menopause naturally because it is a natural transition in a woman's life. It's all
Mhm,
about us understanding what to do, what we need to be putting in the body. And I've been dealing with women for a few years now, and they
mhm,
can tell you I deal with them naturally and they get results. Now, I want to put this on the table. There are three means that women can deal with menopause:
mhm,
synthetic hormone replacement therapy.
mhm,
I don't recommend it because I've had clients that I've had to deal with who have regretted it. Yes, it's a temporary, it will give you just like a lot of things, it'll give you temporary relief.
mhm,
But when we don't deal with the root of anything, it never. And one of the things I tell my clients is that if our bodies are dealing with an issue, it's like it's knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking. Now what I can do is I can take something to stuff up my ass, I can't hear it knocking, and I can feel better and I can live my life, but it hasn't stopped knocking, it hasn't
mhm,
stopped knocking. And you can use hormone replacement therapy, just like you said, some persons have said it saved their life. Um, I would say that there are other options. The second option is
mhm,
bioidentical hormone replacement therapy that women can
mhm,
use. And this is hormones that's taken from soy, from it's not, it's from a natural source. Okay. And
mhm,
then there is the natural way of dealing with menopause. I always tell women, you start with the natural way. You start with the natural way, then if you
mhm,
feel or if you're not getting results, etc., then we'll go on to something else. But what I do with my women is that I they in the consultation, one of the
mhm,
things I have them do is I send them a symptom chart, and I want to know their whole symptomology, because when they give me every symptom that they're dealing with, it's telling me a story about what's going on in their body. And so I know
mhm,
how to put together then something specifically for
mhm.
you that works for your body.
Okay. And I'm going to, oh, there's the menopause ambassador. Um, so I know we talked about the fact that, we have how it affects with us,
Mhm.
how it affects us and what we're going through, and the importance of menopause education. And I noted here you'd already alluded to that just now. It's important to have professional consultation,
Yeah.
menopause consultation. And so that to your point, it's for each woman to explore what will work then best for them,
Yes.
based on the symptoms that they're going through.
Mhm.
And to Tracy's point, this question of HRT is a debate that's ongoing.
Mhm.
There's, as you said, there's the natural forms of HRT, and the
Mhm.
synthetic forms. So again, trying the natural and then moving on to synthetic if it doesn't work,
Right.
for you.
Mhm.
Um, and then having that conversation as well with your doctor, who hopefully is in understanding that this is what you're dealing with or what you're treating, um, in terms of menopause.
And I will say here, make sure if you're going to a physician, physicians weren't educated. Unfortunately, they weren't educated on about menopause. Now,
Mhm,
gynecologists know more about hormone replacement, and what's now happening. There is a demand being placed because, unfortunately, this part of healthcare for women
mhm.
there was no focus at all, at all.
Right.
Um, um, in some of my sessions, I go through the history of menopause and what they did for women and when it even started, when they started
Mhm,
paying attention to women and dealing with it. But again, I want to say to every woman here, it is so menopause education is so important. Here in the Caribbean, 98 to 99% of us women enter the menopausal transition unprepared,
Hmm.
unaware, and untooled to deal with the symptoms and changes that they will experience. And menopause, because it affects so many aspects of our lives, a woman ends up feeling, sh- a lot of women lose their confidence,
Hmm.
and so much is affected. And one of the things I want to encourage women to do, I put together a what every woman should know about menopause masterclass. It's a
Hmm.
4 video
Hmm.
series, and I am putting it in the I
And you
just
put
put
it in
it
the
in the
chat.
chat.
Awesome.
Yes. And I want to encourage women because first of all, we have to get the information. We are full of so much myths and wrong thinking about menopause. There was a research that talked about us that really hit me hard because it was like they were talking about the Caribbean women and menopause. And it was like, God, they're talking about me. They're talking about my aunts, my mom, my cousins, etc. So the first thing is we have to become educated about menopause. And I've put together this easy menopause masterclass series for women. And I'm
Hmm.
encouraging you, when you get it, watch it, and then begin conversations in your environment about menopause. Talk to your daughters. Talk to your nieces. Let's begin to have this conversation about menopause, and then we're gonna spread. Where eventually it's gonna be able to be talked about. We're gonna make sure it gets in the schools, and it's a part of the curriculum. They teach us about sex education. They teach us about reproduction. So menopause is a natural transition. A woman needs, a girl, a female needs to be prepared for this. Marriages need to be prepared. One gentleman said to me on the radio, he went through so much, and he said, "Why aren't they teaching this in marriage classes? Had I known, you know, you know, I can tell you
Yes,
stories." So I want to encourage the women, go get the master class it and make sure, be informed, um, so that as you go through your transition, you're not
hmm,
guessing. There
yeah,
is You have the facts, you have scientific facts that you can go on and you can share within your community. That is important.
that is so awesome. And ladies, and if there are any gentlemen watching, I've put it in the chat. It's also scrolling across your screens. For all of you who've signed up, I will send all of this in email for you. And if you want us to continue this conversation and do another session, please email me, WhatsApp me, put it in the chat, and let me know if we need to do a part two. And if we do a part two, what would you like us to discuss?
Yeah.
Because this was just the introduction to this, talking about the symptoms, and then what else do we want to be educated on? So definitely let me know what other topics you'd like to see, or around well, not topics, but what other areas around this topic you'd like me to discuss. Obviously you said something very important, and that's for us to create Caribbean menopause ambassadors, and
Yes.
definitely one who's heeding that call. I felt very strongly about this after last year and what I was going through, the conversations I was having with other women, and also just the research that I was doing, to be able to get to the point where I was understanding what was happening with me, and also creating a community right here in the Caribbean. And I'm really happy because I think we have ladies here. Put where you're from in the chat.
Yes,
Let us
I would
know where
like
you're
to
hailing
know.
from. I know we've got people here from Cayman. There's some people based in the US. There's some people maybe from Barbados, at least, just recalling some of the signups. So put it in the chat. Patrice, the comments are coming in to say this was very helpful and very enlightening. Thank you so
Oh,
much. I
awesome.
just want to say to all of you women, we're not alone. And if you're like me, who are, aging so gracefully, wonderfully, like Patrice, you know,
Yeah,
we are, we are aging beautifully.
yeah,
We want to be able to not be so fearful, or for this to be so traumatic. We
yes,
want to educate. We
exactly.
want
Mhm.
to inspire other women.
Yes.
So share this conversation with all the women in your life. If it was beneficial for you, again, let us know. And if you need a part two, let us know. That's what Caribbean Masterclasses are here for. Um,
Yes.
Patrice, I love this comment from Tammy. We are not crazy.
No, you're not. Trust me. I would love to, just like you said, I want to deep dive in. There's so much. I just skimmed over everything, but there
Yes.
is so much to this menopause that we need to understand and deep dive into.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, ladies and any gentlemen who are here, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. If you are not part of the CMC family, remember to subscribe for all the great content coming out in our classes, and also to let me know what you thought about the session and what you'd like to hear about next. Remember, you can drop me an email based on the email on your screen so I can get you the subscription link and get you as part of the CMC family. It
Yeah.
has been a pleasure to have you, Patrice. Thank you so
Thank
much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
and
Um,
can I
yeah.
I
Yes.
just want to say, if anybody will, I'm looking for menopause ambassadors wherever you are. Contact me. Let's have a conversation. I want to make sure we have menopause ambassadors in all of the Caribbean countries. Let's have a conversation.
Awesome. And we already got a great start, at least for Cayman. And I
Yeah.
know there's some folk here from Barbados and from the US. Let's be a part of this. So Patrice, again, awesome, awesome. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you, everybody. And it's a wrap. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday and a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you for being part of the CMC family.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.